Whether your favorite Mechanologist wrench is Symbiosis Shot or Teklo Plasma Pistol, welcome to the channel. Since the high octane ban, boosting Mechanologists have been missing gas to close out games, especially against decks with a plethora of defense reactions, block 3s, and fully stocked armor fridges. However, LSS recently announced that the Maxx Nitro Armory Deck is coming to local game stores soon. Maxx's deck is set to release on April 17th, 2025, just days before the ProQuest Singapore season begins. Along with the announcement, we were given a sneak peek at 2 brand new power cards that will surely recharge Maxx's game into the rest of the field. I made a prediction video about the Dash.io Armory Deck about 6 months ago, but this new Armory Deck has me more hyped to play Maxx Nitro than ever before. There's surprisingly a lot to cover in today's video, from the cards spoiled so far, their impact on Maxx and the overall Mechanologist class, as well as some behind-the-scenes development insights that were foundational while making my predictions. If you're as hyped as I am to crank and bank, let's get started. All of the information I'm about to share with you was revealed on the Maxx Nitro Armory Deck product page or the teaser trailer on YouTube. Here's what we know so far. Outside of the April 17th release date, the announcement showed us 2 brand new cards that are sure to be a core part of the deck. While they're kind of blurry, the first is Bankbreaker, the spiritual successor to Banksy. Bankbreaker is a brand new 2-handed wrench weapon. If you've cranked, it has a twice per turn action that costs just 1 resource to attack for 3. This puts it on rate with some of the most efficient 1-cost weapons in the game, including Reaping Blade, Jubilee Spellbane, and Dawnblade. On top of its efficient attack stat, I'm excited to see its secondary effect supporting the multi-attack design space, banishing a card underneath to give its attack overpower and go again. It joins a handful of other weapons that can be activated multiple times in a turn with sufficient resources and action points, namely Teklo Plasma Pistol, Symbiosis Shot, Voltaire Strike Twice, Sledge of Anvilheim, and Seer Stone. While the Mechanologist class has some of the most unique weapons, I think Bankbreaker is up there alongside Nitro Mechanoid and Teklovas in the Mechropotence attacks. While we don't know how to get cards under Bankbreaker yet, Maxx's new weapon is sure to reward players who are able to stack additional cards below the wrench. In addition to Bankbreaker, Clamp Press was also revealed on Maxx Nitro's sales sheet. Clamp Press is a blue 2-cost Mechanologist item. It enters the arena with 2 steam counters, but can be cranked, further synergizing with Bankbreaker and Banksy. While in the arena, Clamp Press gives your wrenches an additional 2 power. If you pitch a blue to play and crank Clamp Press, you can swing with Bankbreaker for 5 damage as a 2-card play. However, if Maxx can get all 3 copies on the board, he can swing Bankbreaker twice for a total of 18 damage, 9 of which would have overpower to help close out games. While it requires additional setup with cards like Fast and Furious, Mastercog, and Steam Canister, Clamp Press allows wrenches to rival Dorinthia's Dawnblade in terms of maximum weapon efficiency. In addition to supporting Bankbreaker, Clamp Press significantly improves Maxx's original wrench. Because Banksy's on-hit ability puts a steam counter on an item you control with Crank, you can keep at least 1 Clamp Press on the board as long as Banksy keeps hitting. Banksy's on-hit effect was originally balanced because its 3 power swings could be blocked with a single card from hand. However, Clamp Press buffs this to a critical breakpoint of 5 power, preventing even Sink Below from fully blocking it out. With Clamp Press, Banksy now requires opponents to give up multiple cards to try to remove Clamp Press from the board. No matter which wrench Maxx decides to run, Clamp Press is sure to be one of his most valuable cards, putting opponents on the back foot and enabling him to excel at a more weapon-focused, mid-range oriented game plan. While Maxx's Armory Deck will make him the star of the show, his new cards could provide a ton of support to Datadol as well. There's some speculation about whether Bankbreaker will start in play or evolve from Banksy, but Maxx's hype is really driving the conversation. Even though it would make sense for Bankbreaker's card number to be 2, the card's low resolution makes it look like it could also be 22. While 2 is normally the slot dedicated to Armory Deck weapons, 22 would insinuate that Bankbreaker is actually the back half of a double-faced card, which transforms your starting wrench into Bankbreaker from the deck. I ran an informal poll on Blue Sky, and the overwhelming majority thought that the card's number was 22. However, I'm personally leaning towards 2, since the first 2 digits look a lot more similar to the number 9 in Fast and Furious than 25 in Saving Grace. However, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on Bankbreaker's numbering in the comments section below. If Bankbreaker can actually be equipped by other Mechanologists, it easily replaces Talishar the Lost Prince for Datadol, becoming her new best-in-slot weapon. Because her hero ability puts items with cost 2 or less into the arena when banished from deck, Clamp Press also has incredible synergy with Data Doll. Using this deadly combination, she can easily swing for 6, 10, or even 14 damage with both copies of Clamp Press on the board and extra action points generated by cranking items out of her banish zone. In addition to Bankbreaker and Clamp Press, the art for 3 new cards were teased in the YouTube trailer. The first piece shows us the reverse look at Maxx the Hype Nitro's adult art, focusing on his wrench. While we don't know what this card does yet, it's most likely going to be Max's new arm equipment. If I had to speculate on its ability, I would guess that it helps put cards underneath Bankbreaker, similarly to how Hyper X3 is able to get hyperdrivers under it before constructing the Nitro Mechanoid. The second piece shows an unknown Mechanologist grinding on rails with futuristic boots, likely indicating that these are going to be Max's leg equipment. Given that boots often give extra action points or attacks, I'm hoping that it has a similar effect to Refraction Bolters, allowing Maxx to give Bankbreaker go again without banishing a card underneath it. Alternatively, I could see it removing Bankbreaker's twice per turn restriction to allow Maxx to go wide to close out the game in a similar way to Achilles' Accelerator in Heavy Industry Gear Shift. The last piece of art shows off some soldering tools supercharging a wrench. The art feels super similar to Spark of Genius in a way, so I'm hoping that this card helps further augment Max's wrench in some way or another. I don't think this card is a piece of equipment, but rather a Maxx specialization that helps him put cards underneath his wrench or put Clamp Press into the arena from deck. With the first few cards spoiled, I want to talk about the number one reason why I'm so excited for this deck to drop. And that's because I think Maxx Nitro's deck is going to be incredibly different from all of the Armory decks released so far, and Bankbreaker is just the tip of the iceberg, hinting that the deck is going to reshape what Mechanologist spike turns look like in the future. Adding to this theory is that Maxx Nitro's sale sheet is tagged as New Date, indicating that the deck is likely coming out earlier than originally planned by Legend Story Studios. It would make sense that the deck was originally slated for a July release during Brian's Amsterdam keynote, with production revved up to compensate for the looming high-octane ban. But you don't have to take my word for it. During Brian Gottlieb's and James White's conversation on Dev Talk number 9, James provided some behind-the-scenes insight on Maxx Nitro development work. In it, he said,
"We had a conversation recently when we're doing a bunch of exploratory work on how to broaden the scope for what Maxx Nitro could be, and a lot of work went into that and came up with some really, really cool stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, why would you bother with any of that when you just lean into the high-octane Nitro Mechanoid package?"
When it was still legal in Blitz and Classic Constructed, High Octane allowed heroes like -IE, -IO, and Maxx Nitro to have game-ending combo turns. Maxx in particular would utilize the card alongside a fully stacked Nitro Mechanoid, bank up as many action points as possible, often dealing 8 instances of 5 to 6 overpower over just 1 to 2 turns. And that's just the damage dealt after other attacks were boosted to generate those extra action points. High Octane enabled powerful spike turns for Mechanologists to get over fatigue when set up correctly. However, the combination of High Octane's card draw, low cost, and high upside made for deterministic games, decided by how soon the Mechanologist player could get their High Octane combo turns off. As shown in the Dev Talk, LSS knew precisely how limiting High Octane was to Mechanologist design space.
High Octane is problematic because it just makes access to action points too free and too easy.
However, it wasn't until the -IO Armory deck when the player base would see the true strength of High Octane. Cerebellum Processor from her Armory deck added a new form of Mechanologist card draw at the cost of a single action point, synergizing perfectly with her hero ability along with High Octane. Cerebellum Processor was the robotic canary in the scrap mine that ultimately led to High Octane's demise on the ban list. During the final win and end round of the World Championship in Osaka, High Octane enabled Sam Sutherland on -IO to kill Matt Rogers on Count Your Blessings Enigma from 49 life to 0 in a single turn. Without High Octane, his -IO would have struggled to find the action points and card draw necessary to play out his 3 Spark of Geniuses, Cerebellum Processors, and system resets over his 27-minute turn. Instead, High Octane boosted Sam into the top 8 of Worlds, later beating the original Flesh and Blood world champion in the quarterfinals, and ending the event as one of the top 4 players in the entire world at the time. When discussing High Octane's power level on the broadcast, Brian Gottlieb had this coincidental haiku to share with Mechanologist fans.
Sam Sutherland might have just sealed High Octane's fate.
We're not going to let this.
Even though Sam Sutherland's performance showed why High Octane needed to be banned in the first place, I fully expect Maxx's deck to help close the gap between Mechanologists and the rest of the field again. Without High Octane, the devs are able to provide more meaningful payoffs for building up a board state to overpower opponents' defenses in ways that aren't just High Octane and Nitromechanoid. In the words of James White,
there's more interesting ways that we can offer that quest to players in the future, and I think that the card needs to go at some point so that we can unleash better play experiences for folks.
I covered a lot in today's video, from the cards spoiled so far, their potential impact, as well as some behind-the-scenes development insights. If you found this interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. That's all for me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll teach you in the next one.